G'day, mate. Be honest with me for a sec. Have you ever been lying in bed, staring at the ceiling at 2 a.m., wondering if you're actually winning or losing the game of life compared to everyone else? Maybe you've been scrolling through Insta or TikTok, seeing some bloke from high school posing next to a brand new Hilux or jetting off to Bali for the 3rd time this year, and you can't help but think, how the bloody hell do they afford that? Meanwhile, you're sitting there sweating over your Combank app, wondering if you can afford that extra flat white tomorrow morning, or if that's going to tip you into the red. Well, stop wondering. Today, I'm going to pull back the curtain on the real financial state of the average Aussie, and I'm warning you now, some of these numbers are going to be a proper stitch-up. Some might make you feel like a legend, like you're absolutely crushing it, but others, they might be the kick in the backside you desperately need. By the time we wrap this up, you won't just have a vague idea. You'll have a crystal clear picture of exactly where you stand in the great Australian pecking order. My name's Lachie, and I'm here to help you navigate the absolute minefield that is money, personal finance, and building wealth in the lucky country. If you want to stop treading water and actually get ahead of the pack, maybe even buy a house before you're 95, do yourself a favor. Smash that subscribe button and give the like button a little tickle. Before we dive into the stats that are probably going to ruin your arvo, let me ask you, when you picture the average Aussie, what do you see? Do you picture a battler who's got it all sorted? A nice brick veneer home in the suburbs? A couple of super accounts ticking over nicely? Maybe a caravan for the holidays? Or do you picture someone living paycheck to paycheck, robbing Peter to pay Paul, praying that the RBA doesn't hike interest rates again next Tuesday? The truth is, most of us have no idea what normal actually looks like. We rely on what we see at the pub or the school pickup, but that's just the highlight reel. The reality hidden in the bank statements? That's a whole different story. Understanding these numbers isn't just about being nosy, it's about survival. Think about it. If you were trying to get fit for footy season, you'd want to know what the benchmark is, right? Money's the same. You need to know the score to play the game. So, let's kick things off with the big one. The one that everyone lies about at family BBQs, income. When that payslip hits your inbox every fortnight, are you earning more or less than the bloke next door? According to the latest data from the ABS, that's the Australian Bureau of Statistics, the average weekly ordinary time earnings for a full-time adult in Australia is sitting right around 1,975s. Yeah, you heard me right. That works out to roughly $102,700 a year before the ATO takes their slice. Now, before you start throwing things at your screen screaming, "Tell him he's dreamin'," let me break that down. That is the average. And averages are tricky beasts because the billionaires and the CEOs on massive packages drag that number way up. If you want the real picture of the middle of the pack, we need to look at the median. The median income for a full-time worker is closer to $85,000 to $90,000. So if you're on 26 or 27 bucks an hour, pulling in about 60K a year, hate to break it to you, mate, but statistically, you're falling behind. But here's the kicker. That 102K figure, that's gross income. That's before the tax man comes knocking. After the ATO grabs their income tax and the Medicare levy, your take-home pay shrinks faster than a packet of Tim Tams at a kid's party. Depending on whether you've got a HEX debt hanging over your head like a dark cloud, you might be walking away with significantly less. Suddenly, that 6-figure salary doesn't feel so fancy when you're trying to pay $7 for a coffee in Sydney, does it? But income is just the fuel. What really matters is the engine, what people are actually keeping. And this brings us to the topic that gives most Aussies cold sweats: superannuation. We don't have Social Security like the Yanks. We have super. And mate, looking at the average super balances across the country, it's a bit of a horror show. According to the ASFA, the Association of Superannuation Funds of Australia, the numbers are, frankly, a bit scary. Let's look at the young guns first. If you're aged 25 to 29, the average bloke has about $25,000 in super. The average woman? About $23,000. Now, if you're 25 and you've got 20 grand sitting there, you might think, sweet, she'll be right. But compound interest needs time and money. If you're draining that account for things or not checking your fees, you are robbing your future self blind. Jump up to the 40 to 44 age bracket. These are your prime earning years. You should be smashing it. The average guy has roughly $131,000. The average woman? Only about $102,000. That gender gap is real and it's nasty. But even for the guys, $130K at age 40? Is that enough? Let's fast forward to the finish line, the 60 to 64 age group. people just about to hang up the boots. Men are sitting on an average of $380,000. Women are averaging just $300,000. Now, $380,000 sounds like a lot of dosh. You could buy a very nice Land Cruiser with that, but you can't retire on a Land Cruiser. ASFA says for a comfortable retirement, which basically means you can afford private health insurance, run a decent car, and have a holiday or two. A couple needs about $690,000 combined. A single person needs nearly $600,000. Look at those numbers again. The average Aussie is hitting retirement age roughly $200,000 short. So what happens when the super runs dry? You're back on the government teat. The age pension. Let's look at what the government actually gives you if you have zero savings. Currently, the maximum single pension is roughly $1,178 per fortnight. That's about $3,600 a year. Could you live on $30K a year right now? Imagine trying to pay for electricity, rego, food, and maybe seeing a specialist because your back's given out, all on $580 a week. That's not golden years, mate. That's baked beans on toast years. And that's assuming you own your own home. If you're still renting at 67, good luck. You are statistically in for a world of hurt. Now let's shift gears to the here and now. The Cozzie Livs, the cost of living crisis. How much is the average household actually burning through every month? According to the number crunchers, the average Aussie household is spending roughly $5,600 to $6,000 a month just to keep the lights on and the bellies full. That's over $70,000 a year in pure expenses. And where is it all going? You guessed it. The great Australian dream. Housing. If you've tried to rent in Sydney or Melbourne lately, you know it's absolute carnage out there. We're talking 50 people lining up for a one-bedroom shoebox that smells like damp carpet. The median rent for a unit in Sydney is pushing $700 a week. That's $2,800 a month gone. Poof. Just for a roof. And if you have a mortgage, with the interest rates where they are, the average mortgage repayment has skyrocketed to over $3,700 a month. That is nearly $45,000 a year just paying the bank. And remember the rule of thumb? Housing shouldn't take up more than 30% of your income. For the average Aussie right now, it's closer to 40% or even 50%. That is financial stress territory, folks. Food is the next big killer. The weekly shop at Coles or Woolies feels like highway robbery these days. The average family is dropping about $200 to $250 a week on groceries. That's $10,000 to $13,000 a year just on food. And we're not talking lobster and caviar. We're talking Wheat Bix and mints. Now, let's talk about the silent wealth killer, the thing that keeps you on the hamster wheel: debt. And I'm not talking about your HEX debt, which is annoying but manageable. I'm talking about bad debt, credit cards, personal loans, and the new kid on the block: buy now, pay later. The average Australian credit card debt is hovering around $3,000. Now, $3K might not sound like a mountain, but here's the trap. The average interest rate on that card is roughly 18 to 20%. If you're just paying the minimums on $3,000, you are literally setting money on fire. You're paying hundreds of dollars a year to the bank for, what? That trip to the Gold Coast 3 years ago? A TV that's already outdated? And don't think you're safe just because you don't have a credit card. The stats show that younger Aussies are drowning in Afterpay and Zip debt. It feels like free money until you're juggling 4 different repayments and getting hit with late fees because you forgot which fortnight is which. About 36% of credit card holders don't pay off their balance every month. That means 1 in 3 people you see walking down the street is paying 20% interest to a bank just to exist. Don't be that person. Let's talk net worth. This is the ultimate scorecard. Assets minus liabilities. What you own minus what you owe. The ABS says the average household net worth in Australia is, wait for it, $1.58 million. 1.5 million? I'm not a millionaire. I hear you screaming. Calm down. This number is massively skewed. Why? Because of property. If you bought a house in Sydney in 1990 for $200K, it's now worth $2.5 million. On paper, you're rich. But unless you sell the house and go live in a tent, that wealth is locked up. You can't eat your house bricks. A better way to look at it is by age. If you're under 35, the median net worth is much lower, often under $100,000, and that includes super. If you're 35 to 44, it jumps to around $300,000 to $400,000. Again, mostly equity in the home. The reason the average is so high is because of the boomers. The 65-plus crowd often has a paid-off house and a fat super balance. But for the younger generation, Gen Y and Gen Z, building that kind of net worth is becoming the mission impossible of finance. But let's talk about something we actually have control over: savings rate. How much of your pay are you actually keeping for yourself? The household savings ratio in Australia has dropped significantly since the pandemic. We're sitting at around 2 to 3%. Let that sink in. For every $100 you earn, the average Aussie saves $2. $2. That is terrifying. If you're saving 2 or 3%, you are one blown tire, one dental emergency, or one unexpected vet bill away from disaster. You have no buffer. You are driving on the highway at 110 km/h with no seatbelt. Financial experts, the ones who aren't trying to sell you crypto, suggest saving 10 to 20%. If the average is 2%, the bar is on the floor. You don't have to be Warren Buffett to beat the average. You just have to save $10 out of every $100. So, when do we actually get to stop working? The average retirement age in Australia isn't 67. It's actually closer to 64. Wait, but the age pension doesn't kick in until 67. Do you see the problem? There's a 3-year gap. People are retiring, or being forced to retire due to health or ageism, before they can get the government pension. That means for those 3 years, you are burning through your super at a terrifying rate. And here's the other thing. We are living longer. If you retire at 64, you could easily live to 85 or 90. That's 25 years of retirement. Remember that 300K super balance we talked about? $300,000 spread over 25 years is $12,000 a year. That's $230 a week. Combined with the pension, you'll survive. But you won't be sipping cocktails in the Whit Sundays. You'll be sitting at home watching reruns of Home and Away because it's free. Okay, I know. I've just hit you with a massive sledgehammer of negativity. Thanks, Lachie. I feel great about myself now, you're thinking. But here's the twist. This is actually good news. Why? Because now you know the truth. You're not flying blind anymore. And the bar for winning in Australia is actually lower than you think. Most people are sleepwalking. They spend everything they earn. They put their super in the default balanced fund and never look at it. They rack up afterpay debt for clothes they don't wear. If you do just the basics, you will lap the field. Number 1, salary sacrifice into super. If you put just an extra $50 or $100 a week into your super now, the tax benefits and the compounding returns will be massive over 20 years. You could literally double that average balance. Number 2, ditch the consumer debt. Pay off that credit card. Close the afterpay account. Stop paying 20% interest to rich banks. Keep that money in your pocket. Number 3, beat the 2% savings rate. If you can save 10% of your income, you are doing 5 times better than the average Aussie. 5 times. You don't need to be on a mining salary in WA to be wealthy. You don't need to inherit a mansion in Toorak. You just need to be a little bit smarter, a little bit more disciplined, and a little bit more patient than the bloke next door. The average Aussie ends up stressed, relying on the pension and wondering where it all went. But you're not average. You're watching this video. You're educating yourself. You've already taken the first step. Don't let these stats depress you. Let them anger you. Let them motivate you. Decide right now. Do you want to be normal or do you want to be free? The choice is yours, mate. If you found this helpful, or if I just scared the living daylights out of you, do me a solid and hit that like button. It helps the channel heaps. And drop a comment below. Which of these stats shocked you the most? Was it the super balance or the cost of housing? I read every single one. Catch ya in the next one.